Hello BookTube, hello ShakeTube. So this is my Hamlet installment, just to show you my cover. For once school textbooks got it right. We have David Tennant and Captain Jean-Luc Picard. So we got Doctor Who and Captain Jean-Luc Picard on the front cover. Awesome. Anyway, geeking aside, so this was the copy of Hamlet that I read for this, not that it really makes that much of a difference. So, a quick synopsis, although giving a synopsis is quite difficult because so much really happens, although not much seems to happen. A lot happens behind the scenes that is implied. Anyway, I'm going to give it my best shot. So it starts off with King Hamlet, Hamlet's father, the former king, the late king, in ghost form walking the walls of the castle, terrifying the guards and the audience as well, because in those days people were a lot more superstitious. So they bring Horatio, who is Hamlet's friend from university, to come and see. And this was actually a really good move because Horatio is not an irrational character. He is very down to earth. He is not going to believe in fake ghost sightings. And the fact that Horatio ends up terrified along with the guards makes the audience and us realize immediately that this ghost is for real. So they declared that they're going to go bring Hamlet so that he can go and speak to the ghost, because the ghost would not speak to any of them. So the next scene we are with Claudius and Gertrude, and Hamlet is a bit of a celebration. Now Claudius is Hamlet's uncle, and he has been crowned king, and he has also just married Hamlet's mother. In cue Hamlet being miserable, because as far as he is concerned this is an incestuous relationship, and it was also in poor taste as far as timing went. As he points out to Horatio, they decided to get married quickly so that they didn't have to re-budget for eats, because they could just recycle the funeral eats. So Hamlet is very upset. We have some really cool lines where he uses some double talk to insult his mother. A2, madam, this is common. Or it is common. My kids enjoyed that one. Anyway, so Horatio comes and he tells Hamlet, and Hamlet then goes to see the ghost. And although everybody tries to prevent him from going alone with the ghost, Hamlet does. And the ghost informs him that he was murdered by his brother, who is now King Claudius. And he tells Hamlet to get revenge. The ghost informs Hamlet that he is in purgatory, suffering in fires and hellish kind of an environment, which does play a part later when Hamlet decides he's not going to kill Claudius after prayer, because Claudius did not offer his brother the final unction or prayer before death. Therefore, his soul went to purgatory and not to heaven. Anyway, Hamlet then comes to light with this great idea, that he is going to feign madness so that he can find out what's happening. Because Hamlet is not somebody who just jumps into action. In fact, one of his fatal flaws is considered inaction. So he then, he pretends he's going to be mad to try and get down to the truth of things. What Hamlet really does in his madness, though, is not so much find out what happened, it is insult people, which could be funny. If you're Ophelia, it was definitely not funny, because Ophelia, who was his girlfriend or love interest at the time, was forced to spy on him, and Hamlet figured it out and was downright rude. That's where you get the whole "get thee to a nunnery" line and whatnot. So to cut a bit of a story short, Claudius and Gertrude bring in two other friends of Hamlet's from school, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and they ask them to spy on him. Hamlet then learns that a bunch of actors are coming to Elsinore, and he convinces them to put a part into their play that they're going to put on, which he writes, which shows how King Hamlet was murdered by his brother. Hamlet's aim with this, finally, is something that works, is he's going to watch Claudius's reaction to this and determine whether he is guilty or not. Because Hamlet is actually being smart here, because as far as he knows, this is not necessarily the ghost of his father. This could be a demon looking like his father, trying to trap him into doing something wrong. So Hamlet now finds out that definitely Claudius did kill his father, so now he's got a whole lot of other dilemmas that he needs to sort out. Is he going to be condemning his own soul to hell by committing this murder in revenge? What's going to happen? He then comes across Claudius in prayer, and he chooses not to kill him because he is praying. Praying before death is a nice way to cleanse your soul. The dramatic irony in that, however, is that we all know that Claudius is unable to actually pray. You cannot turn around and give up every bolt. You cannot ask for forgiveness and not give up what you gained through the, well, foul, the sinful act. So Hamlet loses a very good opportunity, which would have cut a couple of hours, well, at least an hour of the play, by not killing Claudius. However, Claudius is now very aware of the fact that Hamlet knows, so he now needs to get rid of Hamlet. So instead of, because he can't act outright because of Gertrude, that's one way to upset your wife, is to kill her son. So he arranges for Hamlet to go off to England. Oh wait, I skipped a part. Hamlet finally gets to confront his mother, and he says, "Stop wringing your hands, let me wring your heart." As he tells her what he thinks of her and her actions of marrying Claudius. He hears a noise and he thinks it's Claudius, so he grabs his sword and he runs him through the arras, and it turns out he's killed Polonius. So now Claudius really needs to get rid of Hamlet, because now he's definitely a threat and he's pretty sure that, Hamlet's out for him. So he arranges for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to go with Hamlet to England. He gives Rosencrantz and Guildenstern a note which says, "Please chop off his head when you get there." That's for the British king. And pirates attack. Not that this part's in the play. Hamlet manages to sweet talk them into taking him back to Elsinore. He changes the letter so that when Rosencrantz and Guildenstern arrive in England and hand the note in, they end up having their own heads chopped off, but we don't see that part either. However, we do have Hamlet returning to Denmark, well, to Elsinore, in time for Ophelia's funeral, because after he killed Polonius, Ophelia was devastated. She's lost the love of her life. She's now lost her father. She's got nothing other than her brother, who's in France. And she committed suicide. So Hamlet, for once, actually does appear completely and utterly mad at that scene. And Laertes, who is Ophelia's brother, now is really out for revenge. He was out for revenge as soon as Hamlet killed Polonius, his father. And he then falls for Claudius's game. Claudius convinces him to have a dueling competition and to poison the blade of his sword, so that even if he doesn't kill Hamlet, he can nick him, it will be enough. Claudius, however, is a little bit more cunning than all of this. He poisons a goblet of wine as well, so that when Hamlet drinks from it, he will die. So one way or another, Hamlet has planned to die at this sword fight, or this dueling competition. And Hamlet, in a bout of insanity, agrees to this fight. And pretty much after that, everybody dies except Horatio. The other part that I haven't mentioned is that Elsinore was preparing for war. I should say Denmark was preparing for war against Fortinbras, who was the Prince of Norway, because his father was killed by Hamlet's father. Both were kings, and King Fortinbras had challenged Denmark, and King Hamlet had won for Denmark and killed Fortinbras. And he wanted revenge as well, but he was talked out of it and went to take on Poland instead. So that's basically the synopsis. There's a lot that goes on in this play. But now, this play is basically a revenge tragedy, and revenge tragedies do not work out well. I can't think of one where the person getting revenge actually gets it right, other than maybe Macbeth. Macduff wins, but anyway, he wasn't just doing it out of revenge, he was saving his country. So if you take a look at this revenge tragedy, you've got Fortinbras, you've got Hamlet, and you've got Laertes. Those were the three that were out for revenge. The one who dropped the plan for revenge, Fortinbras, is the only one who actually benefits from this. Laertes, in his mad, crazy dash to get revenge, dies because he was nicked by the poisoned sword. Hamlet dies, he was nicked by the poisoned sword. In fact, everybody in Hamlet's family dies. So it's a very good example for the revenge tragedy, as it does not work out. In fact, the only person who did, as I said, benefit was Fortinbras, the one who abandoned his revenge plan. There's also some interesting things with comparisons with characters. There are a lot of foils, although not all of these characters are examined completely. So you have Claudius and King Hamlet, who are compared very explicitly by Hamlet when he is speaking to Gertrude. And he definitely shows Claudius to be the weaker of the two characters, which is not completely accurate, because Claudius, if nothing else, is not necessarily a bad ruler. He is very good with his tongue, he's very diplomatic, and he actually managed in one letter to convince, well, to stop the invasion by young Fortinbras. You also have a comparison between King Hamlet and Hamlet. Now, they have the same name, but they are very different people, because King Hamlet was obviously a man of action. He was invaded, he fought back, he won, Bob's your auntie, everything's fine. But Hamlet, who's asked to now avenge his father's death, just can't seem to actually get to do anything. He's forever thinking. You can also compare Fortinbras and Hamlet. Fortinbras, their situation is actually very similar. Both of them lost their fathers. Both of them are the princes of their countries. Both of them have their uncle who is now ruling the country, and both of them are out for revenge. Fortinbras, however, his outcome is a lot different, whereas Hamlet, he's in action, he just couldn't get anything together. And then you can obviously compare Hamlet to Laertes, because once again, out to kill whoever killed Daddy, whereas Laertes falls into a trap very quickly with his haste in which to act. Hamlet does not survive with his lack of haste to act. So I would just like to bring up the idea of Hamlet's fatal flaw, because this is something that is discussed quite a lot, especially in tragedies. What was that fatal flaw that led to his downfall? For example, Romeo, it could have been, he loved too much. For Macbeth, it was his ambition. And Hamlet's fatal flaw is considered very often, well, in the notes that I have read on Hamlet, to be inaction. And I'm not actually sure that it is, because I really appreciated the fact that Hamlet, with all of his reasons to hate Claudius, marrying his mother, etc., etc., to find out that he had a genuine reason to bump this guy off, and he still stopped. He waited. He tested to see whether what he was told was true or not. I thought that was very commendable. In fact, if you take a look, the only times Hamlet actually acts is when problems happen. So when he thought it was Claudius behind the arras, and he stabbed it and killed Polonius instead, that's what led to more tragedy, because Ophelia did not have to kill herself. It was what got Laertes to then want to get revenge on him as well, which alleviated some of the pressure Claudius had in which to bump him off. And at the end, when he agreed to attend this fight, to participate in it, I question that, because he wasn't acting. He was being led. He was going into Claudius's trap, not vice versa. And so I still feel that was inaction, but he still did something. So I don't know whether Hamlet's fatal flaw is inaction or not. I think that if he had continued to just be inactive, Claudius would have eventually died of old age, and he would have got the throne, and things would have been all right. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. I see I've kept it under 15 minutes. Surprise, surprise. And before I waffle at the end now and just add to that, I'm going to go. Bye.